Um, my name is Darren, and I am a business development guy. And I really want to take a second to explain really what business development is. So I always use the analogy of two hunters. Both hunters are going out looking for deer. One hunter has a hunter stand, and he gets in that stand with binoculars, and he pulls out some deer spray, and he sprays that deer spray. That's marketing. Then time goes on, he pulls out a deer horn, right? He pumps that deer horn, that's marketing. His whole goal is to attract deer. They want marketing is to attract, right? Then you have the other hunter who shows up with a business development hat on, except this hunter has camouflage paint. He already has coordinated, he knows exactly where he's going. He knows exactly where those deer sit. He knows which deer is the biggest, which deer he's most likely able to eat later on, right? So the difference is marketing is really designed to attract, while business development is really about hunting, right? So just wanted to start with that clear distinction. So really what I want to talk to you all and share today is about how to pitch. So I'm going to pull up a deck here and kind of walk you through what it's typically like pitching here in the US. There may be some nuances that are different. I frequently hear we might be a little more aggressive in our approach. And that being said, please feel free to interfere, ask questions as we go. Prue's going to challenge us both a little bit as we go. So this will be really good. Okay, so 1 second and we get started. So the first thing I really want to share is that in sales, no matter what kind of sales, the sales role has pretty much been diminished, right? When someone's interested in a product, by the time they get to us, they probably know enough about the product to make a decision. Really, by the time they get to me, my job is to just present additional information in order to help them make that decision. Okay, so in the US, you cannot do that without a sales presentation. You have to have a deck. So like many of you, the phone is pretty much dead for us. It's all Zoom. And when you get on that Zoom, you have to really have a pitch that's not only designed to help your clients or audience understand what it is exactly that you do, but that it has a rhythm or a cadence that compels them to understand the importance of having that product in their life, right? So we're going to demonstrate that today really through a pitch deck, right? So it all starts with the deck. So the first thing is opening slide. You know, when a client says, yep, I want a meeting, I want to make sure I have everything done. The first thing I do is research on the client, which I don't have here, but I would assume we're all ready to do that. So I start off with just a branded deck. So this is my opening deck, okay? And this doesn't look like much, but really I want to make it important why we're here and immediately help the client understand what it is I do. As you can see, our company name is logos in the bottom left-hand corner. Next, we typically begin with the problem, the biggest problem that we solve. Okay, in this particular case, I work with companies and all kinds of people who are unfamiliar with how to create relationships in digital spaces, right? So when you're doing business development, B2B, you're out hunting for clients. There's a little bit of a skill set that comes along with that, right? To include understanding LinkedIn, understanding what to say to people once you connect. So I really want to start off by stating the problem clearly that I solve, right? And really what happens to with the way that I've sort of designed the problem is this inability for us to understand how to connect with each other in digital digital environments, it impacts revenue, right? So the more you connect and the more that you're able to have meetings, right, the stronger you are leaving revenue channels open. So make sure you clearly state the problem that you solve. Next, I almost go immediately into my value proposition. Okay, so what is it that this company does? What makes them so cool, right? So I immediately let people know my job is to teach people how to cultivate relationships. The more relationships you cultivate, the more meetings you get. The more meetings you get, stronger your pipeline, stronger the pipeline, stronger your revenue. Except there's a science to this. There's sort of a dance, if you will, a cadence. So once companies really start to understand that, they can lower client acquisition costs. The value proposition here, simple. We help accelerate client revenue. Any questions so far? Any thoughts so far? Thank you. Okay, so you always want to kind of, obviously pause as you're moving through pitches, as you know, ask appropriate questions as you're moving through pitches. And then I typically like to give a little bit of insight on the organization, sort of how do we get in this space and how do we help? It was as big as a question to me as it is for my clients. What is B2B business development? What is it? How do you do it? How do you set it up? What's the result? Right? So I actually say this out loud during the pitch, because if I'm actively stating a business problem that I know that client most likely has, we're going to start bonding faster. Okay, and I don't have to do that by digging around. We don't have to do that by digging around for pain, right? There's these sales models. It's like, find the pain. I'm not much into that. So how do you learn it? I founded this company in 2020 out of pure frustration. And when I use terms like pure frustration, I'm automatically bonding because most of my clients are in a frustrated state or will be, or have thought about how to solve an issue. We're now 3 divisions: lead generation, digital marketing, and business development, based in Phoenix. And we just added virtual assistants in June of 2022. The reason I added that is because I think if there's an opportunity for any of us during a pitch to show any way that our business has grown, especially if it's through a trend, that we take an opportunity to do that. So it's just like a little bit of, hey, we're growing. This is how we just grew the latest, kind of like that. Next up, this is a really tough deck, and tough slide, excuse me. And I really want to take a second to really talk about this slide. So we do a ton. The problem is we can't vomit in all of our marketing in regards to what we do, right? So what we've done, instead of getting confusing with marketing, is we have a slide that relates all of our products once we sit down with clients. And this is really, really important because this is strategic. What you're looking at is what we call a burrito slide. Okay, and why is that? You're looking at a whole ton of ingredients. Okay, so when you go to the burrito shop, maybe you want guacamole, maybe you want cheese, whatever that might be. And you never really know unless you clearly understand what that client's product is what type of ingredients they may need. So I think this is really important because then you can walk through the ingredients, and many times clients don't even realize they needed that ingredient. And they're like, oh, wow, I need that. Or my favorite question, could you tell me more about that? So this is really important to define those products in a way that makes sense when you present them, but then also present them in a way as to when you're building a potential solution with the client, that they're actively engaged with you during the pitch in terms of sort of creating that personalized burrito. Okay. So remember, this isn't about selling. So when I get to a slide like this, a product slide, the phrase I like to use is, here's how we help our clients the most, right? Or these are things that we frequently help, clients with on a regular basis. Kind of start there. And, once you start understanding that client journey and where they're at. So for example, I work with a ton of startups. I kind of already know what startups are going to need. But once they kind of see it all, and you start really incorporating a little bit of storytelling around product need, they'll take it from there. So if you don't have one of these, I'm sure you probably do. I think part of the magic in a pitch isn't really what we say or what we present, more so how we present it. So I love to ask lots of questions on a product slide. Let me stop right here, because the one thing I don't want to do is talk at anyone here in the group. How are we doing so far? And any questions so far?
Darren, I have a question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because that's a struggle that I have. I see that you've got, all of these different things that you offer, and definitely my shop offers, quite a number of different things as well. But I'm always worried about like really connecting with people, making them understand what it is we do without kind of overwhelming them with information. So I don't know how you've managed to kind of navigate that.
Sure, great question. So one of the ways that I sort of introduce this slide, because some people will be like, wow, you do so much. And I actually say these words, and you're more than welcome to say them as well, Jesse. I say, yes, as we begin to grow, the market told us what it needed. So what would happen is I'd be working with clients and they're like, by the way, can you help us with our social media? Can you help us with, right? And eventually, instead of saying no, we added them as products. So I always kind of say, we started off really small, now we have a ton of products based on what the market told us it needed. Then as you notice, we have sort of 3 major categories, which makes it a little bit easier. So once I kind of determine what path a person's really looking for, or they're looking for marketing, they're looking more for business development, I just kind of start there. So it's, no set path. And I say, well, let's start with your business development strategy. Are you currently engaged in email and LinkedIn campaigns? And so you can actually start your questioning through your product slide, which is really cool, because if they're like, no, you're like, oh, note self. So that's another really good way to do it. Another really good way is to ask them, just in terms of what they see, what immediately stands out, what immediately jumps out. That's another good way. And then you can actually use that answer to kind of start more of the conversation around that. The goal for this is, there's too many companies that have all these products and like 2 or 3 of them get sold and the rest of them, obviously there's some laggers, right? You're always going to have your higher movers, but you want to give your products, all of them, right, as much of a chance as you can. And so really, I think too, adding market value, as long as you can genuinely provide that value, variety is a good thing. Hopefully that was insightful, Jesse.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Business development training and workshops. Okay, so again, this is just burrito slides. This is because when we're pitching on our products, and this is a note to self for anyone on this call, we actually started off training, and then we actually turned into managed services. So now what happens is we give organizations the opportunity to say, hey, bring us in and teach us how to do it, or we'll take them on as a monthly project, right, and bill you monthly and handle it for you, right? So we also offer this opportunity. And if you're a consultant on this call, this is a really, really great way to create additional revenue. You're already dealing with these products every day. I have people call me up all the time and go, can you help me with BANT? Budget, authority, need, and timeline. They don't know what BANT is. And then many times when you're walking through things that you can teach others, not only is it an opportunity to make someone else better, it's an opportunity for you, in my opinion, to refine those products. So talk about them as much as you can. And hey, I'm saying if you talk about them, present them as a product, as a consulting product. So you guys follow me, take the stuff you're really great at, right? Continuously drive value with data. I can't tell you how many people are like, I don't understand LinkedIn, or what do you do, or what, and I'm the guy, I've closed $1 million deals on LinkedIn and I've never even met someone in person. And so I help them understand really how to embrace concepts that they might not be familiar with by continuously driving value with data, right? So if I'm a startup, I probably don't have a big marketing list in my database of people I can email and really start to get in meetings. But what I can do is set up an outbound strategy, right? Business development. I can set up that outbound strategy and I can connect with clients. I don't have to wait. Okay, so making sure that as we introduce these particular concepts, we're driving it with data. So for example, LinkedIn's got 722 million users on it. Okay, why is that important? There's 722 million users on that platform. I want to be there. So find like the things that can sort of help people make decisions and really, really make them aware, find that data-driven, those data-driven insights. So this is really important slide for me because I work with a lot of senior executives and they just don't understand technology. It's not their thing, right? So it's important to say, hey, well, there's 722 million users on it. Don't worry, you'll be fine. We'll walk through this together, that sort of thing. Remember, as we all know, it's not always about selling. It's about making people feel comfortable. And even stronger during the pitch, it's more important that you're making people feel comfortable about working with you. So I realize when I'm on a pitch, a person is already deciding if I'm going to be the type of guy that they would want to work with. And so I'm very, very, very conscious of that. That probably helps win a pitch more than anything. Being genuine, helping them understand everything is going to be okay, helping them to understand you have a defined plan to support them. There's an emotional part of a pitch as well. We don't really talk about that side of pitches, but it's there. There are people that, they got to sign a check for $50,000 and they are scared to death. I'm going to give $50K away to this vendor who's pitching me right now. I'm scared to death. How can I trust that vendor? Right. So sort of incorporating that, having these conversations, I might ask, hey, Jason, how long have you been on LinkedIn? Are you seeing results with that? How comfortable do you feel with LinkedIn? Right. Those types of questions. Let me stop for just 1 second. Does anyone have any questions on LinkedIn? And the reason I'm asking is that's probably the number one, that's our anchor product. That's the number one product that companies come after us for if I had to rank them. Any general questions or thoughts around LinkedIn on the B2B side for revenue gen?
Darren, I have a question. Hey, it's Maria. How are you?
Good, Maria. Thank you. And you?
Yeah, thanks. Good, thanks. I have a question. I'm using Sales Navigator actually on LinkedIn, and I'm finding that not a lot of the VPs and SVPs of HR or people that I want to connect with are actually actively engaging LinkedIn any longer. So I'm wondering if there's a workaround that.
Yeah, typically what I do in that particular case is if I don't see a lot of energy, I'll go to the company's LinkedIn business page. And if I can find information, so for example, I was working with a pharma company this morning and the company brought on, I don't know, it was like an EVP. And I was like, congratulations to, I can't remember the name of the company, and the HR team, human resources team, right? For your newest employee acquisition. Okay, so even though I might not have been able to reach out to that person directly, I was able to at least sort of make some noise around that particular person. If I'm dealing with sales nav, I'm running on 3 planes. I start director level, then I go VP. If there's a president, great. If not, C-suite. If I can't get that person's attention, because a lot of senior executive leaders aren't on LinkedIn, I'll go 1 step below, which is the reverse. I'll try and connect with the director. I'll try and connect with maybe talent acquisition. I mean, I'm just throwing up HR, but I always try to find additional ways in. And then, of course, I'm sure you're running email searches as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Any additional questions around LinkedIn that someone might just sort of be curious about or right off the bat? Awesome. So I'm going to take a second and just have Prue elbow the audience a little bit with the question. Prue? There can be more than one answer, by the way, on that question that you're looking at. Hint, hint. How are we doing on that poll, Prue?
Good, good. We're just getting a couple of answers. I'm just gonna give another minute.
Okay.
I can start the poll again, but feel free to. There are 4 questions there. You can answer all of them right now or later, but I'll just keep this open. I'm happy to share the results in some time if folks are still answering. So don't worry about that. Darren, do you want to go ahead?
Thank you. So next up, right? So we saw this huge burrito, right, of products that we offer. You got a chance to see that, right? And so really what I like to do during a pitch is if there's an area that you or your company is really good at, like one of the things that you're really known for or something that you've mastered over time, I would make sure I highlighted that in a slide. Because you also don't want to get lost in all the products that you have, right? And again, these are just quick blurbs. Okay, so one of the reasons that we're successful is we specialize in highly customized messaging. Okay, we're going to find an HR person we want to talk to. We're going to fail at getting that meeting, but then we're going to find an Instagram and find out the guy likes Jordans. So we're going to send him a pair of Jordans. Whatever it takes for us to get a meeting using customized messaging, we will do. Important factors very quickly as you move through the channels of business development. 76% of people say, okay, customized communication is what helped them make a decision to consider a person or a brand. Okay, that's from McKinsey, by the way. Okay, and it's one of the reasons why I don't get super excited about mass emailing. Not saying that you can't or you shouldn't, but even if you mass email, be super, how can I say, personalized around maybe industry, around maybe title, right? So if this person's, for example, VP of HR, there's certain personal things you can say to any, VP of HR. Also, this is where I give salespeople a spanking. 70% of salespeople don't follow up, right? And how dare you put together these great pitches, right? Do all this stuff. Maybe they follow up once or twice, and then the client doesn't want to get back to me. So you put this beautiful pitch together. We follow up. Super important. How many times do we follow up? 6, 7. So please, remember that. That's how if you're wondering who successful salespeople are, they're just the people that follow up. 5 sentences, I typically tell clients, and this isn't about pitch and poker, but this is just really important if you're a business development. These long, during a pitch, or even in an email or communication you're sending out to a client, keep it short, super short, concise, direct. Your grammar doesn't even have to be that great. The amount of emails, as we know, executive leaders receive daily is ridiculous. That includes yourselves. Look at your own email. And you're like, wow. So anyways, I got off track a little bit. My apologies, but highlight special areas of expertise in your decks. Same thing, marketing side, you can do it more than once. We really do cool stuff at marketing. Same thing, this is very important. All this prospecting, we actually set companies up so that's done automatically, right? We use automation in order to do that. We automate all kinds of business processes. People don't know that. They're still like doing stuff by hand. We're like, no, right? So trends, again, things that you think would really be helpful, call them out. And at the bottom of the slide, you can see in bold, automation is key, right? So in that deck, not only are you orally identifying things that that you may really be good at or are strong trends, you're also driving home important factors to help them make a decision. And as we answer Prue's poll, just want to stop again, just take a quick pause to see if anyone has any questions so far or their brains are rolling as we speak. How are we doing, crowd?
Darren, I can share some of the results that we've gone, or we can do that after you've finished sharing your slide. How does that sound like?
Awesome. Thank you. We'll share after.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Openly discuss trend-driven products. Earlier, you guys heard me mention, our products grew, and part of why they grew is because trends. And it does two things when you openly discuss trends. You're openly discussing trends that maybe a client hasn't thought about yet that they might want to take advantage of. But it's also, again, important for them to see how innovative you are when it comes to product lines and product support. So we had clients that are kicking off all these campaigns, and maybe they didn't have sales teams, but they needed help. So we kept getting asked for virtual assistants, and obviously we did that. So discuss trend-driven products, again, separately or highlight them. Just make sure that you're making that an important part of your pitch. And of course, all of these trend-driven products are always going to support the value proposition, always. Okay, so how are we different? This in a pitch, in at least here, people hear pitches all day. It's just, typically here in the US, if you're a vendor, especially a tech vendor, HR will be looking at acquisition of product. They're going to need 4 to 6 meetings with vendors. Okay, so when I'm in that pitch, first thing I'm already thinking is how am I different? And even if I don't know that they're actively seeking other vendors, I still act as if they're seeking other vendors. All right, now, let me take another really, really important step back here, just to help the audience see this a little bit more through my lens. Because remember, I'm a hunter. I'm a business development guy. So what happens is we set up outbound campaigns. Those outbound campaigns hit 3 different types of trees. Let me explain those trees and why it's so important for you to remember during a pitch. The first tree is called tofu. And we all know tofu is top of funnel. Okay, and I don't want you to look at it necessarily from the definition you might know. I'd like to give you a definition. In this particular case, top of funnel might be a company that's just now starting to realize, become aware that it has a problem. Maybe they haven't talked about a budget. Maybe they haven't even talked about the issue at a meeting, but they all kind of know it's there. That's top of funnel. They may not even be ready to act on it. Okay, the next tree is what we call MOFU. Okay, MOFU, you got it, middle of funnel. Okay, these are people who are like, oh man, we have to figure this out, right? They start talking and right, what's the budget? Okay, and then they start to kind of figure out where to go from there. Okay, and then you have BOFU. Okay, you guessed it, BOFU, bottom of funnel. These people are like, it's on fire, right? We're ready to make a decision today, right? And so this is important to understand these categories, because when you're pitching, they're already talking. First of all, we never know where a person is on their sales journey, right? We want to figure that out, whenever we get the opportunity. But when we're initially, especially prospecting, we don't know where they are on the journey. Okay, what could be the difference between you and another particular vendor or consultancy or product? How different you are. I've talked to people, they're like, yeah, we were going to go a different direction, and then we remembered you and it didn't work out. I'm like, hey. You never know. You never know. So I will always like for people to talk about how we are different. Now, I don't like to talk about how I'm different from competitors. If you're pushing a tech product, I get it. If you need comparison, whatever that is. I talk about things that would make the relationship, right? That pronounces and defines a relationship. That's what makes me different. Okay, material presented in a rapid, easy to learn format. That's something there's no manuals and long, right? Execution ready. Even on this call, I would expect that there's some things that people are going to get off the call and do differently tomorrow, hopefully, right? But I like to share information that is what I refer to as execution ready. One-on-one access for support, right? A lot of companies struggle with that. And then really we create a competitive advantage. That's what makes us different, right? And then of course, some other training, we bundle with training programs, onboarding, all that kind of stuff. Let people know what they can expect. I don't know if there's training aspects to your pieces of business, but even if it's a sale, doesn't matter what it is, always let people know what they can expect. Give them a little preview. So I always tell companies, especially if they're bringing me on the train, here's a few things you need to know, right? Here's a few things you need to know about me or how we work or what it will be like. No dumb questions, right? And if you're a salesperson, maybe you're not training. Maybe the thing you want someone to know is open accessibility. Hey, if you get the opportunity to work with me and we're working through this pipeline, call me whenever you want. That will take someone's anxiety from here to here. I openly discuss everything. I give companies homework. And when I say the word homework, they all get terrified, right? So then I define what homework is. Just a little bit of figuring out the titles you want to go after, doing a little account research, right? So now it's not scary. And then the buyer is like, oh, okay, right? People don't want extra work, by the way, which is why I do that. We're already overworked. We all already know that. So really, what's this about? Really letting them know what they can expect, but also sort of combining that with how you're going to make their lives easier as well. I literally want to stand up and just scream this as loud as I can, like a lion in Africa. Always ask for the sale. You did all this hard work to get here. I am in pitches. I am shocked at when people pitch me, and I'm in a lot of them, and they don't ask. And I'm like, why? Even if the client said no, right? So this is how I ask. We'd like to create our next winning strategy for you. I'm very interested in learning what the next steps are in terms of me getting a proposal over to you. I'd like to take a step back and give you the floor. That's how I ask. That's how I ask. Now, it might not be the prettiest. In fact, let's go off course for a little bit. If I can ask those on the call, at the end of a pitch, how many of you struggle with this? I don't mean to put anyone on the spot.
I do. So, and I'm a VP of sales and I still do. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for following the sword. And when you say I do and I'm the VP of sales, I would imagine there's a little bit of anxiety attached to you asking for the sale at the end of the pitch. May I respectfully ask why?
Sure. And you know what? I think it varies with each client. And so I'd like to be able to create a winning strategy for them as long as I've got the right people at the table. And sometimes I feel like maybe I haven't identified all of the right people and they're not all sitting around that table. And so I feel like my efforts would be like, it wouldn't be fruitful pitching it to those people. But even when it comes to the C-suite, I feel like sometimes they're not giving me their full attention. Like I've lost them somewhere along the way.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I want to acknowledge what you just said. It's very important because I was on the enterprise side as well of sales. And what I'd like for everyone to know on the call, especially if it's a business development opportunity where you set a meeting with the client, you're introducing value to that client. It's our job to move the process forward. Now, how do I do that? When I'm on a pitch, I don't get off a call until I've set the next meeting. And I know that probably sounds aggressive to people. And they're like, well, I'm not exactly sure I want to talk to X, Y, and Z. I go, awesome. I'll do a placeholder. We'll just do a placeholder. Right. I also know at the very beginning of an intro call, and I'm walking through BANT, I also know to ask sort of, hey, is it you that's in charge of making this decision? Or are there other decision makers involved? And if they say there's other decision makers involved, then right there, I start planting the seed to get those decision makers to the call. Typically, the way I do that is I say, I really, really appreciate you getting the time and taking the time and opportunity to meet with me today. I'd like to invite the rest of your team to see what you saw today. And then I'm just curious, so who are the names and titles of those that are a part of decision making? And they will typically give it. But again, they won't give it unless you do what? Ask. You got to ask. now I take that a step further. Once I get those names, I connect with them on LinkedIn, and then at least I won't be such a cold guy once I get the opportunity to meet them. Maybe I'll be like this much warmer, right? So I'm already preparing pushing all of the steps necessary to keep this cadence and this rhythm of energy to push us through the end of the sale, right? And so that was a really good answer. I don't expect anyone to close a sale if the appropriate decision makers aren't available. What I do expect, Jeff, we'll get your question next. What I do expect us to do is to ask who those people are, and can we get, or when can we get the opportunity to meet them? Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, how often are you kind of like gatekeeped, like away from the decision maker? I find that I never really get a chance to speak directly to the decision maker. They'll take it to them. I'm just wondering what your experience has been. Is that normal, or is that like 50-50? Just curious.
Yeah, no, that's been my experience. But by the way, are you dialing? I'm just curious.
Am I dialing?
Yeah, or emailing.
Emailing, like talking. Like I have a conversation over Zoom or Teams, and I maybe meet them in person and give them, even got to a proposal level, and then they'd have to take it to the decision maker.
You know when that happens, and I deal with a lot of people and I know right off the bat they have another decision maker or somebody else that they have to get it cleared through. I always try and find out what's important to them, and I flat out ask them, how can I help you personally or you professionally? And when I flat out do that, I feel like because I'm willing to help them with whatever it is, they're a little bit more willing to help me. And then I say, hey, I'm just curious, do you have any reservations about sharing what we learned today? Because some people don't really know how to talk to C-level or sell whatever it was, right, that they saw. And a lot of times people go, well, yeah, no, they'll open up a little bit. He's a tough, And I go, well, what factors?
They're cheap. It's always cheap.
They're always cheap, yeah, for sure. But you know what? If they're cheap though, that's another reason the burrito helps, right? That the ingredients, right? So maybe you can find like something small, right, to kind of like get you started. But burrito helps with that. But I totally get it. But I always say, hey, how can I help you personally? Because they want to go up, they want a promotion, right? They want to go up the chain. So I just, let's talk about this. How important is this product? Try that a little bit. It may feel a little scary, but it's definitely gotten me progress for sure.
Sure. Great.
Thank you. Any other direct questions before we discuss our poll? Please feel free. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share here and turn it over to Prue. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. So we have, okay, let me open this up on the side. Yeah. So, Darren, I'd like you to take a look at this and maybe help some of our folks through these challenges.
Absolutely. And can you
yeah, and I remember the third question for the fourth one. I remember we talked about collecting data. So,
okay.
But here you go. So this is the first one, the second one.
Awesome. So what is the most important element of a successful pitch? It looks like the team polled at storytelling. I'm just going to share my personal answer on this. I think it's a clear value proposition.
That was clear value proposition. You can see it's a 94.
Oh, 94. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So the team got it right. Yes. It's a clear value proposition. Sorry about that. That is absolutely correct. Great job. Storytelling is also another big piece of this. And as you guys kind of saw how I moved through the deck, I was trying to kind of tell a story a little bit, you know, how we came about, how we help, what we're really good at. And then I'm actually threading, if I have the opportunity on a pitch, if I'm not directly pitching, and this is probably the most important thing ever for any salesman, more than anything on this poll. The only time I am physically speaking during a pitch is when I am actively pitching with a deck, or someone asks me a question, or I have a question for them. That's the only time I'm talking. I see these salespeople, they just go off on tangents. I just stay quiet. Someone's asking how we should dress for the pitch. I'm always in a jacket. You can't lose in a jacket. So that would be my answer for that, for sure. But I also wanted to really nail home that everything in regards to a successful pitch is important. Obviously, you want convincing data and statistics. You got to have engaging visuals. No one wants to be bored. And really, that presentation deck should be an extension of you. So I'm a super automated guy, and I actually love biz dev. And so the deck's kind of a reflection of me, or make sure it's a reflection of your salespeople. Also, if you're lucky enough to have a marketing division and a sales division, I would go get off this call and I would put sales and marketing in a room right now. And I would take these 5 elements of a successful pitch, and I would ask both teams if they felt like this was being done with a deck. Literally. That I run into that when companies bring me in. Like, it's frequent, like the sales team doesn't like the marketing team, or the marketing team doesn't like whatever. They don't talk. There's some sort of wacky disconnect. And building a deck together is a really, really good way to sort of bring that in and make things a little healthier. Cool. Any questions around important elements of successful pitch, team? All right. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how important do you think visual aids, slides, etc. are in a pitch? I think we all have the same thought about that. I would say a 5, but yeah, a 4 will work. And really, to me, it's the visual aids aren't about you staring at a screen and talking off of a screen. Those should just be little elements of what you do. The slide should act as a guide. The only exception to that rule is the product slide. If you got, a ton of products like me, then turn it into a burrito slide. Because really the slide and the visuals should all be designed around a conversation that's going to lead that potential client to close. That's why that's so important. That also includes the order of the deck.
Darren, I think Ben has a question.
Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Raise your hand.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's about the value proposition. If you have multiple ways you can help, let's say you can cut cost and help them be more sustainable, would you focus on just one or multiple?
I would try and combine them as much as I could. I've also seen people with multiple value props. I've also seen people with multiple value props create bullet points for their value prop. I'd like, 2 combined into 1 max. If you have to, bullet point it. But the real goal, even if you bullet point, is to keep it as small and concise and direct as possible.
Thank you.
Yep. By the way, when you bullet point a value proposition, it looks pretty clean instead of like a whole bunch of words, right? It almost looks cleaner that way if you have more than one. Okay, Prue, can you scroll down just a tiny bit? Thank you. So what is the biggest challenge you face when preparing a pitch? I think we should talk about these out loud. What to put in it? You got tons of services. I think someone answered that. Let's start there. Did the burrito slide of our products and services help with this question? Whoever may have written it. All right. I hope I was able to demonstrate what to put in it, and how, if you have a lot of services. Looks like Marcus is saying yes. Thank you, Marcus. Nice visuals, but not too distracting. Yeah. I want people to engage. I want to do interesting things where I have people's attention, and that level of awareness that you're creating with them helps to push the sale. Yeah. So nice visuals. You know, when you're looking for a really nice deck, if you're not the person creating it, it makes it tough. But I use a company called SlideBean. So if you're not familiar with SlideBean, I'd love to throw SlideBean out, and they can kind of like give you directions on decks and visuals. Getting in front of the decision maker, this is actually what I specialize in. And really, the biggest challenge that you're going to have there is the messaging that you use in order to get in front of a decision maker. The best way I can answer this question is by segmenting the roles that I am engaging. So I don't talk to a CEO the same way I talk to a vice president. I don't talk to a vice president the same way I talk to as a director. Okay, I know most likely the director is managing people. Their load is probably much heavier. So if you can't, you know, customize directly to a person or industry, customize down to the role. Because if the director can see value in meeting me, and basically to directors, I say, let me make your life easier. I know you're doing a whole bunch of stuff. Most likely you might be feeling a lot of pressure and stress, or you might be overworked. Let me show you how we use automation to take some of the stuff off your plate. My approach to the director is that. Okay, my approach to a VP is more along the lines of operational efficiency. Okay, right? So if we can take something off someone's plate and then we become more efficient, then that may relate directly to P&L, right? That, by the way, that's going to make the VP look. Right? And then if it's C-suite, right, then it's more so, hey, there's some blind spots that you may have, right, as C-suite, and you know, we work on those blind spots. Let's start there, that sort of thing. So really, just you got to do your best to tailor your message. And again, I run campaigns all the time that are just aimed at vice president of, yes, someone's asking, can we wear t-shirts with our company logo under your jacket? 100%. Absolutely. I think pitching in the US, by the way, I'm just going off track here, just like anything, there's a judgmental factor that, you know, right off the bat. And so if I know I'm going to be judged, I might as well win the contest right off the bat. Prue, we can see your email, sorry. Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good, but we lost the questions, the polling questions.
Oh my God. Okay, so where is it? Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hopefully that helped with getting in front of the decision maker. By the way, Poker uses an approach called ABM, it's account-based management. We do very well with that. Collecting data. I would assume someone's referring to research, and I'll be very direct about research. It's super important. When I'm talking to a C-suite, I'm not talking to a C-suite about the actual tasks I'm solving. When I'm talking to a C-suite, I'm collecting data that lets me know what the company did annually in 2022, 2021, and 2020. I could see an upwards or a downwards trend, right? So yes, it's important to collect data, but it's also important to collect data relative to the person that you are engaging. Right now, you know, salespeople, there's tons of turnover in sales, right? So I'm gonna make sure I bring some stats regarding turnover, and then that enforces my position. Hey, you need automation. So yes, absolutely collect as much data as you can. How you collect that data? You know, I just do tons of Google searches. I use Crunchbase a lot, but you know, that's a lot for more on the startup side. G2 Crowd for tech products to compare them. There's a lot of different ways you can just grab that data. And listen, personalize your decks. You don't have to use that same deck for the next guy. Take a screenshot, drop it in for that client. you know, make them feel like you really did your homework. Let me stop right there. Any other thoughts around collecting data? I know we don't have too much time left, so I want to move a little quicker. Okay, educating without overwhelming. That's a really good question or thought. My suggestion on that is just to stop and ask questions. How are you feeling? How are you tracking? You know, how am I doing? And you're just gauging that person as you move along. Not presenting it clearly enough that it resonates with the audience. This is when I tell salespeople, present to each other. Present to your husbands, your wives, present to people around you in the right. They're going to let you know super quick, right? At least how clear it is. Now they may not be the intended audience, but you can start there. And then you can ask people at the end of a pitch, you know, hey, Darren, we're refining our pitch. How well did we get our value prop across? Explaining what I'm doing in a compelling way to people outside my niche. That to me is an excellent question. And I always start with make yourself interesting. Now, I didn't have time to do that on this call, but I'm an identical twin, right? And my parents had to separate me and my brother because we came up with our own language. Well, why? Because they would put us in a room at night and we just babble. So my point was I learned to communicate early in life, and now it's a skill, right? So I really want you to use yourself. Be interesting. That will help you to connect with people that's outside of your niche. Concise messaging in a crowded space. I think the concise messaging might include getting things done. If you're in a crowded market space and a lot of people do the same thing, I would center a message around getting things done effectively. If I'm looking for a product in the market, I don't care what, I want the product that gets it done the best, the fastest, whatever it might be. So I would definitely talk about that for sure. You can always get it done quick, cheap, or what's the other word? Or quality. You can get it done quick, you can get quality, or you can get it inexpensive, but you can never get all three, right? So I would write my messaging around that. Share one tip or technique we find effective in capturing audience visuals. Opening with a surprising fact. That includes a surprising fact about you. Big scary statistics to establish the problems, absolutely, especially if it's well known. Making them laugh, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more, that breaks the ice. Story, wardrobe, yep, these are all super important. I would agree. Can you scroll down one more little bump? Oh, okay, oh no, we have 4 questions, okay. So we have 3 minutes left. I would like to thank you all so much, you know, for allowing me to present to you. I am, you know, you can find me on LinkedIn. Of course, Prue has my all of my additional information. I'd be happy to just chat with you. And I don't know, you got a new American brother and I'll get a new Canadian family member too. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Some of the coolest people I know, strangers I met on LinkedIn or in opportunities like this. So thanks again. Prue?
Thank you so much, Darren. I would definitely like to open up the floor for any conversations, questions. I'm going to be here for a while. Darren, I know you can be here for some time as well. So thank you, everyone, first of all. And Darren, I think your inputs, your suggestions, your deck was absolutely valuable to us. And we have some great comments in the chat as well. So the folks, it's an open space right now. Would you like to share anything? Would you like to discuss your own deck, something that you are struggling with? Or would you like to talk about a certain kind of pitch where you would like some help about? Like, this can be an open platform to actually converse. Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, so CGLCC has their business summit this week, and some of us are invited, or we're all invited if we're all going there to do our 2-minute pitch in front of the audience. So any tips on how to make that make sense and memorable based on what we learned today?
Yeah, I'm so abstract. So you hopefully everyone heard me when I said make yourself interesting, right? So when people say, for example, what do you do for a living? And I say, I'm the guy that is able to figure out how to get in the room. Okay, why do I answer like that? Because I know the minute I answer like that, they're gonna have a question after it. And that's my goal, is to get them to answer questions. It's to get them to be interesting. So instead of going, oh, I'm a business development guy, right? I go, I'm the guy that, right, connects with higher level people that makes decisions, right? And then create that interest around that. The other thing I would do is try and slide in outcomes, right? Really quickly in that 2-minute elevator pitch. What happens when people are able to achieve X, Y, and Z, right? Is they're going to get relief, they're going to get that revenue pool, whatever that is. So talk about sort of what you do in an abstract way, and then make sure you throw a benefit in there somehow. Like, so, you know, revenue, you know, biz dev revenue, it's like, you know, it's kind of like cliche, but the people are looking to make money. And I directly say that out loud.
Thank you for the Darren. If folks would like to do like a live demonstration or a live pitch, we can definitely go about that as well. I know in some previous workshops we've done that, where folks have talked about their pitch and something that they struggled with, and Darren can take a look at your pitch as well. Also anything to do with audio, and we can see where you can improve or what you can add, or how to make your current pitch interesting. What can you add in that pitch? So happy to do that as well. Any other questions by anyone? If not, we can, you know, close this session, and I will send you all the recording and pass on Darren's contact information, so that if you have any questions anytime, you can reach out to him or myself. How does that sound? Good?
Sounds excellent. Prue, I can't wait to support you again, as well as any member of the CGLCC and your team. I would be super excited. I already have another idea. Thanks.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone.
Thank you, Darren.
Thanks,
Prue.
Darren. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Bye bye.
very
Bye,
welcome.
Marcus.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Dan.
Thank you. Bye-bye.